The the question I have is back to racism. During the campaign, Biden said he wanted a commission to study reparations for slavery. Um, Numbers have been suggested: 50 to $200,000 per black family per one-time payment. You've generally said racism still exists, and people who are in minorities feel it. What kind of things should be done if you're born, white male, and you're hiring some people, firing some people, working in business? What kind of things should you do to counter effect, do what you can to lessen racism today?
So I think on a personal level,
Mm.
I think it's first to recognize, even if you've never seen it, to recognize that there's at least a possibility that it exists out there, that these people are not just making this stuff up.
Mhm.
I'm not talking about the crazy people, the critical race theory. I'm talking about the average black person, Hispanic person who tells you, no, people have treated me in a racist way. So at first, recognize that it probably exists out there, and that they're sensitive about that, right? That it's an issue for them. It would be for you if somebody treated you based on in that way. It's the same, by the way, with sexism. Appreciate that some women really do experience it, and I wouldn't say traumatized by it, but it bothers them. It's a problem. It's not, even if it doesn't rise to harassment, it's not pleasant to be told that you're not going to be successful because you're a woman. That's horrible. Right? So be aware of it, be sensitive to it, make sure that you don't play into it by, so I don't use the N word. I hate the idea that I'm not using a word, but I don't use the F word either. So there's certain words I just don't use because I don't think they're civilized. I don't think they're appropriate. And I recognize that some people, they trigger them, and justifiably so. I don't think it's an unjustifiable thing. So be sensitive about these things, and recognize that some people are going to be upset about certain things that you might not understand. But have a clear view of what racism actually is. And again, I've tried to define on the show many, many times what it is, because I see people. And what I try to do is try to avoid the identification by what's called race or by skin color and so on. Although it's hard, because some things you want to identify that way when you're talking about other people's identification. So particularly as a commentator, I can't avoid it. But I would never say white people are like this, right? But I might say people view white people like this because that's how they view them, right? So it's be sensitive to what it means to be racist, or to and then try to the best of your ability to be colorblind and live colorblindness. And I would say, given the history of this country with racism, and look, you can't deny that this country has a really, really bad history with racism. Now, you could argue other countries do as well. Okay, that doesn't make it any different. The fact that this country, fight it. I would support truly anti-racist causes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that there are any right now because of the corruption of the anti-racist movement by racists. But to the extent, I think it's a major cultural issue. I think it's a major, it is a major issue politically. And we need organizations. It used to be the NAACP. I don't think it is anymore. But we need organizations that will stand up against racism and argue against it and point out racists and go after them. Unfortunately, I don't know of any organizations like that today.
And certainly on the sexism side, I mean, as a financial trading company, we offer women more money than we do starting men, equal, college graduates, whatever. We can't attract them, right? We're a small company. We're not a Goldman Sachs. We don't have that clear direction forward. And they offer them, Goldman Sachs will offer a whole lot more money than we will for the women who go and get the degree that makes them eligible to be hired. I mean,
you know, the fact is that not a lot of women graduating from finance and not a lot of women graduating from certain engineering fields like computer engineering,
yeah.
Which is unfortunate because there's no reason there shouldn't be more women. And I think that has to do with certain issues with how we educate them. But yeah, I mean, it's actually, I think, particularly with women, it's actually beneficial to a work environment to have some women in.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather have some women in my company than not have them. I just think it's more interesting. So I would go out of my way with an equal, you know, if I had equal abilities to get the woman rather than the man, just because it's more interesting. The difference makes it interesting.
And my point is, we got to go back somehow at the junior high level or whatever and get them interested in math and science and engineering and finance and those things, because they aren't going through the system. I
know. And that's part of the problem with Silicon Valley. It's not that they are sexist, it's that there's just not enough women engineers coming out of the system to hire. Yeah. And nobody's really addressing why that is and how do we deal with that problem. But it's a cultural issue. It's a expectations issue. But yeah, somebody says, let women do what they want. Of course, but don't discourage them from doing it. Don't set up a system that basically tells them you're not good at math or you're never going to get a job in Silicon Valley. You never get a job as a physicist. That's what happens, unfortunately. And that is, you know, if it was just, if you weren't dealing with children, then I would say, yeah, I mean, let them do what they want. But you're dealing with children and you're guiding those children in ways that I think are unhealthy. And I do think that exists. I mean, I still know, you know, parents who dramatically, intellectually treat their daughters differently than their sons.
Thanks.
And to begin with, I wonder if I can ask you to capsulize. I know this is difficult. Can I ask you to capsulize your philosophy? What is Randism?
First of all, I do not call it Randism, and I don't like that name. I call it Objectivism.
All right.
Meaning a philosophy based on objective reality. Now let me explain it as briefly as I can. First, my philosophy is based on the concept that reality exists as an objective absolute, that man's mind, reason, is his means of perceiving it, and that man needs a rational morality. I am primarily the creator of a new code of morality which has so far been believed impossible, namely a morality not based on faith.
On faith?
Not on faith, not on arbitrary whim, not on emotion, not on arbitrary edict, mystical or social, but on reason, a morality which can be proved by means of logic, which can be demonstrated to be true and necessary.
All right, all right.
Now, may I define what my morality is?
All right.
Because this is merely an introduction. My morality is based on man's life as a standard of value. And since man's mind is his basic means of survival, I hold that if man wants to live on earth and to live as a human being, he has to hold reason as an absolute, by which I mean that he has to hold reason as his only guide to action, and that he must live by the independent judgment of his own mind, that his highest moral purpose is the achievement of his own happiness, and that he must not force other people, nor accept their right to force him, that each man must live as an end in himself and follow his own rational self-interest.
May I?
All right, before we go on, reminder, please like the show. We've got 163 live listeners right now, 30 likes. That should be at least 100. I figure at least 100 of you actually like the show. Maybe there are like 60 of the Matthews out there who hate it, but at least the people who are liking it, you know, I want to see a thumbs up. There you go. Start liking it. I want to see that go to 100. All it takes is a click of a thing, whether you're looking at this, and you know, the likes matter. It's not an issue of my ego. It's an issue of the algorithm. The more you like something, the more the algorithm likes it. So, you know, and if you don't like the show, give it a thumbs down. Let's see your actual views being reflected in the likes. But if you like it, don't just sit there. Help get the show promoted. Of course, you should also share, and you can support the show at JeronBrooksShow.com/support, or on Patreon or Subscribestar or Locals, and show your support for the work, for the value hopefully you're receiving from this. And of course, don't forget, if you're not a subscriber, even if you just come here to troll, or even if you're here like Matthew to defend Marx, then you should subscribe, because that way you'll know when to show up. You'll know what shows are on, when they're on. You'll get notified, right? So, yes, like, share, subscribe, support. Like, share, subscribe, support. There you go. Easy. Do one or all of those, please.